Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for the 5th of August, 2013. Hope you're having a good Monday. Tropics are behaving as we start the week. No tropical cyclones noted anywhere in the Atlantic Basin right now. If we look at a satellite shot of the basin, a full shot from Africa over to the Lesser Antilles, clearly nothing going on, though there is more of an increase in moisture, maybe even a little bit of a turning to the clouds here in the deep tropics as the intertropical convergence zone is allowed to lift more northward due to the high pressure over the Atlantic loosening its grip just a little bit. This is the frontal boundary that came off of the United States a few days ago and swept the remnants of Dorian on out to sea. Sometimes these stalled frontal boundaries can be the focusing mechanism for tropical cyclone formation, but none of the global computer models are indicating anything remotely resembling that over the next several days. And part of the reason is there's generally a lot of sinking air across the tropics right now, a lot of downward motion going on in the atmosphere, and convergence as we call it. So for right now, we don't see any development over the next several days across the Atlantic Basin. Looking in the eastern Pacific, even though there are a couple of active storms, one is a tropical depression, the leftovers here of Gil. The other one is Tropical Storm Henriette. Henriette looking to strengthen into a hurricane as it moves generally westward over time. Way off to the left of the map is Hawaii, and I think this will weaken and die away and not pose much of an impact to Hawaii. And we'll see. Sometimes they can surprise you, but the water temperature's out there a little too cold. Upper level winds probably not going to support much, though we will watch and see what happens as this approaches at least the longitude of where Hawaii would be located. That's several days away. Now, one of the things I want to look at, sea surface temperatures today. The beginning of the week, we like to examine what's going on with our anomalies, the departures from normal. In the eastern and tropical Atlantic here, mostly positive anomalies throughout the region, half a degree to a degree Celsius, depending on where you're looking. And overall, not exceptionally warm. We saw warmer temperatures in this region in 2005 and as recently as 2010. But I think the thing to take away is that we don't see any wide-scale cold water sitting through this region as compared to average. The only cold anomalies that are really in any kind of a large-scale fashion right now are in the southwest Atlantic Basin here, in and around the Bahamas. But don't be fooled. Water temps are still plenty warm for hurricanes to take advantage of. In the Pacific, the cold anomalies persist along the equator, and that is part of this La Nina-ish neutral, sort of your cold neutral pattern. That's leaning on the cold side of neutral is the better way to look at it. So one thing I did want to show you too is the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf, a good half of the Gulf here, had cooled off, but now it's back up. So you can see very quickly how water temperatures can rebound. There are some positive anomalies in here reaching a half to a degree Celsius above average. This is going to start to matter as we get into the heart of the season. Speaking of that, the Madden-Julian Oscillation. This is the 200 millibar upward motion chart. And as I mentioned, right now, Western Hemisphere, a lot of downward motion. That's what all that brown coloring in here means. A lot of sinking air. The rising air is sitting over in the Western Pacific around the Philippines, Japan, Vietnam, the South China Sea, and that area. And that's where we're seeing all the typhoon activity as of late. So that's not a surprise to see when you've got that upward motion. That's where the activity will be. Looking forward, this is 5 days out, this is 10 days out, this is 15 days out into the future. A little bit more upward motion off of Africa, still sinking motion in the Western Atlantic. By day 10, that starts to relax a little bit, and by day 15, it's possible that the Atlantic Basin could be more primed for development by about the 15th or the 18th of August, somewhere in that time frame. And that fits in nicely with some other charts that I wanted to show you. This is the CFS, or Climate Forecast System, 500 millibar anomalies, current and forecast out over different time periods. And so this is the departures from normal for the steering layers and the middle layers of the atmosphere. And blue means general below normal or below average heights, where the air is more troughy in nature. There's more of a trough signal in the atmosphere. And when you see these blues and the deeper blues, that is indicating your anomalies on the low side. And conversely, when you have these oranges and reds, those are positive anomalies in the height field. And what we're looking at, this is the east coast of the U.S. right here, clearly a negative height anomaly over the northeast United States. And if we had a hurricane coming through the pipeline, it would probably catch that and turn out to sea, more than likely right now. That's the way things look today for the next several days. Going on out into time, the same initial time, this was initialized on the 4th, so yesterday, Sunday, but now the forecast is for the 11th of August through the 17th of August, and we see that the trough amplifies even more, and the negative anomaly of the trough sits over the northeast. Again, a pretty good roadblock for any hurricanes that may be trying to come through. So, my iPhone beeping at me there. So, if there was anything in the pipeline, it would probably be turned out to sea. Luckily, I don't see anything out there. We talked about that already. Now, as we go through time here, the CFS indicating, again, same initial time, the 4th of August. Now we're looking at the 18th to the 24th. Look at what we've got. I know it's very difficult to see, but trust me, it's there. Just a little bit of a height anomaly showing up in the central Atlantic. That's not really what's concerning to me. What's concerning is that the blues have left the northeast. The lower than average heights are gone, and you clearly can see that the trough is lifting out. We don't have that deep trough anymore. We're headed more towards a zonal pattern. In fact, if we move out to the next time period here, this is now valid the 25th of August through the 31st of August, and look, no blues up here in the northeast. And that's not a good sign, because we're also entering the peak months or weeks and days of the hurricane season. Now anything traveling across the deep tropics has a much more clear shot at the islands, the Greater Antilles, Florida, the Gulf Coast down to the Caribbean in this type of pattern. There's no way to really draw it north and turn it out to sea. Well, we don't want that right into the Carolinas, but you get the idea. We don't have this recurvature pattern when we're missing these negative height anomalies over the eastern U.S. In fact, the negative height anomalies are showing up out west, so the pattern flipped from a trough in the east to more of a trough back in the west. And that is the type of pattern that generally favors impacts from tropical cyclones on the southeast United States, the Caribbean, and possibly Central America and Mexico. Farther out into time, or further out into time, I guess is the grammatical correct way to say it, September the 1st through September the 7th, we are at the peak of the hurricane season practically here. And look, we do not have a deep trough sitting over the eastern U.S. We do not have a deep trough sitting over the central U.S. even. The trough is out west, negative height anomalies out here, with slightly positive height anomalies over the western United States, western Atlantic basin, that is. Very hard to see, but this color right here. So about a 5-meter height anomaly, and that's all a meteorological definition there. Basically, slightly more Atlantic ridging than we would normally see this time of year is the way to look at this as we head into the peak of the hurricane season. So this is something we're going to have to keep a close eye on. The next 2 weeks or so probably going to be fairly quiet. I think the next week will be. I can almost be certain about that. But then after that, things are going to start to change, and it is my sincere hope that people are ready for it, because it could be a fast and furious 6 to 10 weeks in the Atlantic, Gulf, and Caribbean, and people better be ready. Well, at least there's nothing to worry about this week. Have a good rest of your Monday. That is it for today. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. That's my website. Always a privilege and an honor to produce these videos for Hurricane Pro in HD. Have a good rest of your Monday. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.